Now, is this working? Yep.
After 2 steps, I lost my balance. And you know, that's when the colors started to change. And it was somewhere then I started to feel covered in chaos. And it was somewhere then don't look at me.
I'm just laughing. Camera guy said, wouldn't this demonetize you? No, I've got the rights to use that music, guy with a camera. It's through Episound or whatever it is. I always forget the name. How you going, everyone? I should take these headphones off. I'm just checking that the audio is working because I'm doing this for the first time off my new Mac Mini, the M1. So I don't know whether things are going to work. The only thing I couldn't get to work then was the audio for the video I just showed you that I shot with the a7S III and the Firetech gimbal. I couldn't hear the audio, but was the audio there? Yeah, for some reason, I just couldn't set it up so I could hear it through the whole system. So I'll have to work on that a little bit later. Thanks so much, Chris. So let me take these off now because I know it's working. All right, so to start with, it's been about 4 weeks since I've done a live with you guys. So it's great to be back, actually. So we're going to get back to the Corona. So let me just crack this. I had to run in and go and get it. And then I think I'm going to have to stick the lemon in. So here we go. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. Here we go, baby. Oh, yes. Cheers, everyone. Okay, so Carl said that the audio was fine, so that's really good. Oh, frame rate is a bit low. Really? That's interesting. I'm looking up there and it looks all right on my system. I'm checking on the other computer, actually. I've still got my Mac Pro next to me and I'm checking there and it looks good. So perhaps it's just your end, Mark. I'm not sure. So let me just come at, this is pre-show. Let me just put in the time up here. Oh, I thought I started that. Well, I'll have to do it later. So this is pre-show at the moment. I'm just going to have a quick little pre-show. So let's see who's in on the chat, because it has been, look, it's been around about 4 weeks. The issue is I went away with Kerry for the weekend where we did that filming that I just showed you a few minutes ago. We went down the coastline here, which is just beautiful, and I filmed that video for a Firetech and also the a7S3. I wanted to try it out using S-Log3. And that I was wrapped with how the whole video works. So that was where we were for that week. And then the week after, I've then got the Apple Mac, the new Apple Mac, and I've been working like crazy trying to test it, get it up and running properly, and things like that. So in the coming days, you might actually see a few videos for the Mac, because there's a lot of interest out there for people setting up these new Macs. So if it doesn't interest you guys, and I completely understand it if you're just into the photography side of it, just ignore them, guys. Don't watch those videos if they annoy you. It won't be, for long, but I just want to try, if I can, to sort of get in on that hype that's there and share some of my findings. It really has changed everything about the way I work, particularly for Final Cut and Lightroom. Like, it is so fast, this little thing for so cheap money. Well, I mean, it's still, it's over $1,000, but for what this does, it just blows away my Mac Pro, and it is unbelievable. Where I used to say do a video and it would take, if it was say an 8-minute video, it would probably take before on the system that I had 30 minutes or so to render at the end. This is quicker than real time, so it'll do it in around about 5 minutes. It's unbelievable how fast it goes. And also it runs the Sony files absolutely like butter. I mean, it is so easily editable. I've still got to test the other formats in it. I've only tested the All-I one, but I will test the others too. But so stay tuned for that. So if you're not interested in that, just skip it. So I've had a little bit of a break. I enjoyed it actually, but now I'm back again. So let's see who's here anyway. So we've got Hero is in here. Daniel Anthony's here. Mario is also there. Shadow Smoke's here as well. Mario is saying, I'm sure they will eventually. I'm not sure what that was. It would be nice to hear of another firmware update that brings fixes to the a7S3. Well, they will eventually, I suppose. Let me put this on silent too, so I don't get any messages or anything like that. Let me come back. What else? Yeah, I mean, there will be updates. We've just had one recently for the a7S3, so I'm sure there'll be some others that are popping down the line. Jeff said, hi, David, grab two. He wants one as well. He wants a beer. Will you check out the new Sigma DNCC lenses? I'm going to talk about them today, actually. So we'll talk about those lenses as one of the stories today. Like I said, it's hard for me to get them. I always get the Tamron ones, but it's hard for me to get the Sigma ones. I just wish someone local would support us so I could review it for you guys. But I will talk about it today. Dave said, hello, Dave. I missed you in the past couple of weeks. Thanks, Dave. G'day, Carol. Good to see you in here. Marvelous visuals. Right, YouTube has been dry without the Oastler lives. Marius is saying hi to Carol. Nivak's also here. Rob's saying I'm late again. Where is the best black camera Friday deals? Well, you know what? I haven't been looking at any of the camera stuff at all. You know what I've been buying is software. Because I've been finding a lot of the software, it was not compatible with the new Apple Mac. And I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. But a lot of the software wasn't compatible with that. So I've had to update them. So that's what I've sort of taken advantage of the Black Friday deals. Look, the Mac Pro the little Mac Mini that I've got is the 8GB one. I am taking it back though and replacing it with a 16GB one. I've ordered it, but it's going to be a couple of weeks. But some of the software, so that's what I've been purchasing is software, and I might talk about that in a separate video. So camera-wise, I've seen some really good deals for the Sony a7 IV. A7R for, I mean, I've seen $1,000 off, which is nuts. There's been some crazy deals. You'd be a little bit disappointed if you just bought it over the last few days. So who else is here? Shaku saying, I said that one. Chris, hello, David. A little windy in cool Los Angeles. You're having a Miller Lite today. He's getting a beer or two. Mark said, happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends. I hope you had a wonderful day. George said, greetings from New Jersey and thanks for the recent M1 Mac Mini video. Thanks, George. Sounds like Pink Floyd, that music. I know, it was really lovely, that music. I was rapt when I found it because it's, really fitted the music very well. Ike's here as well. Costa is also here. Mark said it sounds like a Qantas ad. I love it. Why does that pop-out thing keep showing? No, it won't be demonetized because I own the rights. I can use that music. Hello from Seattle, Vlad said. Thomas said, hello from North Carolina. Chris said, beautiful video. Thank you, Chris. Langston saying, hey, kid. Andrew saying, nice, wow. Michael said, YouTube doesn't let me know when you're going live now. Not good. I don't know what's going on with it, Michael. I usually post it in the photography videography school, though. So I do post it there. For some reason, and when you used to schedule a video, it used to show up in YouTube straight away. But now it doesn't even show up. All it shows up is in my live feed, and you guys can't see it. So it's just weird how that works now. So I'm going to have to look at some settings, whether there's a setting that you've got to change or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, the notifications are a bit of a pain. So if you can give me a thumbs up, guys, I'd appreciate it because it does let people know that I'm here. But check the photography videography school because it's always posted there, Michael. I do it about an hour before. $500 off the a7iv, $1,000 off the a9. That's because there's probably going to be a new a9. I'm going to talk about that in the news stories today. Is that the software not compatible with the new Mac Mini or not? No, it's the new Mac Mini. Because I've got Big Sur running on my Mac Pro next to me, and that is running everything fine. I haven't had anything that won't run on that. It's only the new Mac Mini. Most things have worked, but it's just a few things that haven't. A few plugins and things like that I had issues with and I had to update. So, yeah, I'll talk about that in a separate video because I've got a lot of stories to go through today because it's been a few weeks since I've been on. Ike said, I'm ordering the 16 megabyte Mac Pro here soon. Got to replace my two. You'll love it, Ike. This little Mac, it's nuts for the price that it is. Even if you kept it for 2 years and then upgraded it, it really is incredible. Mark said, thanks, Ike. He's talking to Ike there. Tonight, for once, I'm drinking with David. Cheers. Oh, cheers, Axeman. How's your holiday going? Shad said, hello, David. Happy Thanksgiving. Do you think MacBook Pro 13 M1 worth? Yes, for photo and editing and also rendering. Yep, definitely. I've been amazed at how good. And they all look basically the same. I mean, I'm using the Mac Mini, which is tiny, only because for me, it's easy because I've already got the monitors and everything else. And also I wanted the extra ports that were on the M1 Mac. If you don't need those extra ports or you just want to add a hub, I have got a hub on this as well, but and I'll talk about the whole setup I've got in a separate video. But for photo, video editing, and also Final Cut, it is unbelievable how good it is now. I mean, this is their first generation of this, and it's incredible. I just can't think what the next versions are going to be like. It runs Lightroom great, and Lightroom's in emulation. Photoshop's also in emulation. There is a beta, but I haven't bothered downloading it because it's quicker. It's as fast as anything that I really want it to do. And I think once they do native versions of Lightroom and Photoshop, there'll even be a bigger performance boost because the native apps like Final Cut are insane how fast it works. What else before we start? G'day, Jim. Good to see you in here. Marvelous Visuals is also here. Like was 17 likes and 3 dislikes. Now it's 16 and 4. There's always dislikes, but it's all counted as a so-called engagement anyway, so it doesn't matter. Jim said, do you know if the MacBook, the M1 MacBook Pro runs Unix? I asked Apple support. I don't know. There's rumors that it was going to start running Windows in emulation. So, I mean, the Apple Mac is really based on Unix, the operating system, but I don't know about the M1 version of it. So I'm not sure. Ike said, operating systems underlying Intel-based Macs. My guess is since a new architect, they're talking to each other. That's all right. Michael said, hello, David. Thank you for giving us a platform to come together as a creative community. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Michael. Mark said, I'm replacing my 2018 Mac Mini with the M1 on order. Should arrive here soon. My Mac Mini with a T2 chip does it all, but gets very hot. Yeah, this thing is dead cold. I mean, it doesn't even, no fans, nothing. It is nuts. Once Adobe optimizes the suite for the M1 chip, where I know 42 Pros, it is going to be incredible. Like I said, I paid, you're going to laugh, but I think I paid about $10,000 for my Mac Pro that I've got next to me. Now, this is a 2013 Mac Pro. So it's getting on now, but it still does 4K editing. But when I was exporting and things like that, it would take, like I said, if I did an 8-minute 4K video, it would take an hour to render. Whereas now it takes 6 minutes. It's nuts how fast these new Macs are. It really is crazy. Cheers too, and cheers for most people around Australia. I mean, a lot of Australia at the moment is around 47 degrees. God knows what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's probably about 130 degrees or something. It's nuts, the heat wave we're having here at the moment. I'll just check what that is. Hey Siri, what's 47 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
47 degrees Celsius is 116.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, so it's 116 degrees Fahrenheit in a lot of Australia today. It's just crazy. Not here, though. Thank God. All right, so let's get stuck into it because I'm excited to go through the news stories with you today because we have absolutely stacks because I haven't been on for so long. So I'm going to talk to you about the first story today, which is which is going to be amazing. The a7S III. Now, I'm so excited about this camera. I mean, I hope it doesn't come out soon because I just couldn't afford it. After buying the a7S III, I don't think that I could afford to get another camera now. Well, look, weddings start for me again next year. So I think in February. We've just come out of lockdown and I have to congratulate all Australians. We're actually now zero. We've had 0 cases of COVID now for 29 days in a row. So we have none. So we really have eliminated it. So congratulations, all the Aussies. We actually have beaten it, which is good. Hopefully it won't come back. Like Jim said, 116 Fahrenheit is a cool spell for Death Valley. So COVID's all finished. But because we didn't really know when all the lockdown was going to finish, well, we've just come out of it a couple of weeks ago. So naturally, all the weddings that I've got were all postponed until really next year. They had to do that because we've only been able to have 10 people at weddings. So I'm starting again in February. So hopefully I'll get some weddings now, starting to book again and things like that. I did a dance shoot yesterday, which was fun. I'll post some images from that soon. But yeah, hopefully things now will be getting better again. So if the a7 IV comes out, I might have to sell some gear if I want to buy it. But let's talk about some of the specs. And I think this is probably pretty close to what we will probably get here. So they're saying first rumoured Sony a7 IV specs, a new sensor, a 3.6 million dot EVF, 4K 60, and they're going to price it at 2,499. So it'll probably be 6,000 Australian dollars. I love it. And I'll go through these specs in a minute and why I think it's pretty close to what we're going to get. The new body shape will be based on the same as what the new a7R IV is and the a7S III. So it will be that same shape. Obviously, looking at these specs, we're not going to get the fold-out screen. I think they're probably going to leave that for the ZV-1 and the a7S III looking at this because there's been no rumours about the fold-out screen on this camera at all, which is a bit weird because I thought they would have gone for that, that fold-out rear screen. But it looks like they may be going to keep that as a more high-ended one for the A7S series. So anyway, but a lot of people that might make happy because I know people like Gilbert, who is always watching this later on. He'll be in bed now, but Gilbert is not interested in a fold-out screen at all. He likes the flip-up screen the way it is. I would like it to have a fold-out screen if possible, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, I'd still be happy. I'm still happy with the way that the A7 III screen works. It's just after I've been using the fold-out screen, I really like using that. So it looks like we're not going to get that. So the body, apart from that fold-out screen, I think is probably going to be exactly the same as what we have in the A7R4. Let's have a look else what they're saying. It says, all we will get from Sony this year is the full FX6 E-mount camcorder specs announcement on November the 17th. Well, we know that's released now. It's disappointing, but the good news I can give you is that our sources correctly share the FX6 date. Now, are they saying when this is going to come out? At the very same sources are sure 2021 will be very exciting, and they can confirm the first camera we'll get is a new a9 II. Now, I'm going to talk about that in the next story, actually, so I'll skip that. I just want to go through what they're saying the specs are. They're saying in Q2 the earliest, or Q3 likely. So it looks like we're going to have to wait quite a while to get an A7 IV, unfortunately. It makes sense in a way, though, because I suppose being the Olympics now is next year, they probably would want to release an A9 III first because of the Olympics. And really, like, the A9 II is not such a great step up from the A9. And in fact, when I had both cameras and tested them side by side, I really didn't see the need to upgrade from the A9 to the A9 II. But I'll talk about that when we go to the next thing. So it makes more sense, I think, that they're going to say release an A9 III first due to the Olympics. But I hope, because these cameras are so different, I hope that, you know, we don't have to wait too long. Like third quarter of the end of the year is really starting to push that out. But who knows with what's going on with COVID and stuff like that. So they're saying that's when we're going to roughly get it. Q2 earliest, I think the way more people are saying it's going to be Q3. But they're saying it will have a new sensor with a faster readout. So it's not recycling the same sensor that we've already had. And that's a really good thing. Even though that sensor is still great, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the A7 III sensor now. But, I mean, it is, 3 years old, that sensor? Probably even older if you count the development side of that. So it probably is due for an upgrade. And they're also saying that it's not a recycle one, but they're saying it will be in the 30 to 32 megapixel region. And that makes complete sense to me. That's something I would expect for them to do, is to up the resolution on that sensor. I'm happy with 24, but look, I mean, 30 is not that much greater than that anyway, and it does give you that ability to do a little bit of cropping if you want to. So a lot of people may be really happy with that. They're sort of upping that sensor to a 30 or 32 sensor, megapixel sensor. The EVF, now this does not surprise me at all. The EVF they're saying is going to be the 3.69 million dots EVF, not the 5.76. So what you're going to get there is you're going to get the same EVF as what's in the A9 and the A7R4, which is great. I mean, it's still a really good EVF. I mean, I don't expect them to put a 5.76 million dot EVF in a cheaper camera like this. I mean, I shouldn't say cheaper, but, you know, less expensive. It's not the upper end, which you'd expect the A7S III or the A9 III to have. So they're saying it's going to have a 3.6 million dot EVF, which doesn't bother me at all because I'm happy with my A9 EVF. You do notice a difference when you go from, say, the A9 to the A7 III, because that EVF on the A7 III at the moment is pretty crappy when you compare it to, say, what the A9 is. And then if you step up to the A7S III, my God, it's the A7S III EVF is insane. It's like looking at real life. It's just beautiful. It's stunning. So it looks like we're going to get that. They're also saying that most probably the LCD will also be on the cheap side, but the image quality in AF will be top notch. please, Sony, if you are listening to this, at least use a better screen than what we've already got. That screen is just so dated now compared to everything else that we've got. All the other competition, I should say. I do notice, though, the a7S III, even though they were saying that that was the same LCD, is a better quality back screen. I've noticed looking at it, when I hold them side by side particularly, it's much nicer. So they have done something with that screen to make it better. But looking at that, I'm hoping they're just not going to use the same back screen as what they've always been using for the last few years. I'm hoping there's a thing on that. They're saying the image quality of it, though, and the AF will be top notch. They also would be putting in the touch screen. I'm sure they would have to put in the touch screen at the back on this. If they don't do that, that would be nuts. I've got a feeling that they will put that on all of the new cameras now. So you'll have that same Sony menu, the same menu as what we've got now in the a7S III. I think that would be in there. They're not mentioning that, but I would be so surprised if they didn't use that touch screen that's on there. I mean, there's no reason for them to leave that off anymore. It doesn't have to be just given to the high-end cameras. I mean, that really should be on everything. I mean, I'm hoping even, it probably won't happen, but I'm hoping even the ZV-1 gets an upgrade that you can do that too. But I think that will be on all the cameras from now on. The new menus are really good. After you get used to them, I hate going back to the older menus now. So that certainly is a great thing as well. So I think that's going to be in there. They're not mentioning that, but I'm sure the touch screen will be on that. They're also saying the video will certainly be 4K 60p and will feature new menus. Oh, well, there you go. They're not saying it's the same menus, but I think it will be the same menus. And the price will be in the 2499 region. And it says, makes sense. I'm happy to hear we finally step up from the usual 24 megapixel sensor. So I think overall, I mean, I think this would be a great release. It really answers everything that I would want for it to like have a fusion camera. It's going to have the 4K 60. It's going to have a better EVF than what's in the current camera. It'll have a new sensor and it'll be, 30, 32 megapixel sensor as well. It'll have the new AF tracking that we've got now, which is so much better. I mean, you haven't got that in the a7 III. So you'll have that. Touch screen. I think this is going to be a fantastic camera for its price. The difference, I suppose, is if you're dealing between this and what the a7S III will have, excuse me, I'm getting beer burps. The fold-out screen is obviously going to be one of the things that's going to be missing. The higher bit depths is also probably what's going to be missing as well. And you probably won't get a full HDMI output and things like that. It'll probably stick with the, your smaller HDMI. So there'll be things like that if you wanted to go more into the high-end videography, that you would definitely still want the a7S III. But as a fusion type camera, like for weddings, things like that, the a7 IV is going to be amazing, and I really can't wait for it to be released. Like I said, hopefully not too soon, but it sounds like it's going to be really good, so I'm really excited about that. So let's keep going because we're going to be here for a while today, and I'll just come back to Q&A a little bit later. Let me go over to the next story, which is about the A9. Now, the A9, like I've said a few times to people, I think the A9 was due for a release. The upgrade to the A9, the original A9, was it was a sort of an evolution. It's not an evolution. It's just, well, I suppose it is. It's just like an A9S or whatever you wanted to call it. It wasn't really a massive upgrade unless you were into the networking features. When I sampled both, and I got an A9 II for a month, so I used it for a long time. And really, I just came to the conclusion that there wasn't enough there to make me want to upgrade to an A9 II. Yes, it's a better camera, but not enough that I would want to upgrade to a newer model for the price that camera was. And in fact, I still adore my A9 even now. So I think it probably was time that they could bring something out really good. Now, they may have rushed the A9 II to meet the Olympics, which was meant to be this year, and it obviously got cancelled. So it probably has given them, it's given them another year that they could develop that camera and release something that's a little bit more substantial for the Winter Olympics coming up. The Summer Olympics coming up next year. in June or July, whenever it is. So I think it probably makes sense that they're going to upgrade that camera. So if we look at the specs that they're talking about with this camera, it's going to be pretty insane if this is what it is. So let me switch on to, where is it? Is it here? Yeah. So Sony, they're saying they've registered a new camera today. Now, this was November the 21st. So what is it, about a week old? They gave it a number down here, which was this WW728473. Has been registered with an overseas certification bodies, and their details are unknown because all items are kept secret. But they're also saying in the report here that Sony registered a new camera in Asia, reports that the Sony covered all details, so we don't have the usual information about Wi-Fi and other features. Now, that is weird because they're obviously hiding that, because normally that's released in it. But I strongly suspect that this will indeed be the new a9 II camera. Name the a9 III. A9 camera, name the a9 III. That might be announced in early January at best. Sony will also announce a new 35GM. I'm going to talk about that in a minute too, because that makes complete sense as well. So the rumoured specs, let's look at what they're saying the rumoured specs are. If this is true, this is nuts. So it says Sony will launch a new high-end camera Q1 2021, maybe in January 11th CES show, which is all digital this year. It will be named as an A9X series camera and not A7X. So not sure if it's an A9S or an A9 III. And there's a reason why they're saying that, because this video in this is really strong, like really strong. It's saying that it's going to have a new 50 megapixel sensor. How on earth that they can transfer those sort of files like the A9? It's going to be incredible, whatever processor and everything that they're putting inside of this camera. It's going to have 8K 30p video confirmed with no overheating. It's still an infant 8K mode at the moment, meaning it's not 8K 60. I wouldn't expect 8K 60 to be in anything except probably the A7S 4. That probably will be in the next A7S version camera 3 years or so down the track. So we'll have to wait for that. But even to give 8K 30 in a camera like this is nuts. I don't need 8K. I'm so happy with having 4K 60 and 120, and that is beautiful in the A7S III. It's the most beautiful video camera I've ever had. But they're giving it as an option. And like I've always said to people, if you don't need that option, you don't need to use it. You can always then scale down to whatever it will be, probably 4K 60. They might not even give 4K 120 in this, because they might keep that for the A7S III. But still, they're saying 8K 30p videos confirmed, but no 8K 60, which would be crazy. And there will be limitations in the quality you can record internally. So obviously you might have to go externally for that as well. Other specs similar to the A7S III, so you'll have the same EVF, same autofocus, etc. So it's going to basically have all the same features like that as the A7S III. At least 1,500 more expensive than the EOS R5, but the price hasn't been finalised yet. Expect 5,000 United States dollars, so it'll probably be about 20,000 Australian dollars if we want to get that. Here, boy. What can you say about that? Like, if that is real, if that's what they're going to release as an A9S or A9 III, it is UFO technology. As Casey would say, you'd actually name that as UFO technology. It's just nuts. That is crazy. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it does sort of make sense to me that the Canon has got 8K, so Sony probably do want to match that, and also they probably would want to match that sensor. Imagine having a 50 megapixel sensor that can do the 20 frames per second, and then sports photographers could also be cropping that in and doing whatever they want. If they can get that 50 megapixel at 20 frames per second, and I think they'd have to, because people aren't going to upgrade. Sports photographers need that sort of frames per second now. And if you can do that in silent, which I'm sure you'll be able to do, this thing is nuts. I mean, it's just crazy. So that's so exciting. So stay tuned for more about that. I will come back to the chat at the end, guys, and we're going to have a look. Next story, let's see what this is. I'm just switching back to me so I know when I can put the time in. The next story is going to talk about a 35GM. Now, I had the Sony 35GM for a long time, and I sold it when I bought the 24 GM. Now, I was lucky because I had a fairly good version of the Sony 35mm 1.4, but I know you only have to go on the online rumor sites or the online forums, and there's an awful lot of people that don't like the 35 1.4. So there must have been variations in the quality that the 35 1.4 had. Which is a little bit unfortunate, but that must be the case because a lot of people did say that they were very disappointed. Oh my God, David. I have to show that. David just gave me a massive donation. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate that. My God. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. And let's go back. Where were we? Yeah, so a lot of people were complaining about the quality that they were getting out of that. Now, other people were saying it was really good, and I did find that the quality of the one that I had was good. But once I got the 24, I loved that so much that I was happy just with using the 24. So I sold the 35 to sort of finance me getting the 24 GM, and I adore that lens. I mean, I absolutely adore it. But if they did release a 35 1.4 GM, that would probably tempt me if I had the money later on down the track. But so let me just show you what this rumor is over here. And I don't think this is a rumor. I've discussed this many times that I think Sony are going to be upgrading a lot of lenses in the near future. I think the 85 GM is also going to be one that they're going to look at very, very soon as well, because that one is a bit dated now, and also the autofocus is pretty slow compared to, say, the 135, which uses those linear focus motors. So they're going to have to look at that too, I think, and probably the 70 to 200 GM and also the 2470 GM will also have updates in the near future as well. So I think the 35 1.4 is just the start of this. But it does say here that they'll soon announce the 35 1.4 GM. It says the Japanese solid source said that Sony will soon announce the new 35mm 1.4 GM. There is yet no info on the release date and no other info about possible specs and pricing. It said, and this is interesting because they did say down the bottom here that honestly, it's about time to replace the rather unspectacular Zeiss 35 1.4 lens. I hope that more of the current lenses will be updated in the near future. And so they're even saying it there. Like I said, I think I had a good version of that lens because I found it lovely. I really did find it lovely, but so many people say that they weren't that happy with it. So like I said, there must have been variations, which is bad. But I'm sure if you look at the way Sony's new lenses are, the new GM, they've improved so much in the later lenses that I think this would be spectacular. I mean, you've also got Sigma, which has an amazing 35 as well. So there are ones out there now, and Sony probably have to do this because the 35 Sigma is such a good lens. So I suppose they've had competition there now, and this is why competition is always good. So, you know, stay tuned for that. I think that's pretty exciting. Who knows how much it's going to cost, though, but it's probably going to be a beautiful lens. So let's go to the next story, which is this one. Talking about Sigma, there's a new lens that is just been rumored. Well, it's probably definitely coming out because they've got drawings and stuff of it. There's a Sigma here that says it's leaked first images of a Sigma 24 3.5 and a 35 f2. I'm not sure about a Sigma 24 3.5 though. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the chat. Not sure about that. But the 35 f2 sounds really interesting. So it's a 35 f2, a 65mm f2. Like, that sounds amazing as well. They look really quite beautiful. I mean, if you're looking at these lenses, I think they're quite stunning. They almost look Voigtlander in their looks. I think they're quite, I mean, as much as you can say lenses look beautiful, I mean, I think these do. I like that look. I think these look amazing, to be honest. And I've always loved the Voigtlander look as well. So having a look at that, you know, seems really good as well. It's also saying here there's comparisons here between, made the size comparison with the current 45mm lens as well. So it gives you an idea about that as well. So this is the 35 1.2, which is amazing. 65 1.2. So these are just comparisons, I think, between the other lenses, I think. Let me just switch to here, because did it have... No, it didn't. It didn't have anything else. Anyway, I think it's exciting. It's more lenses that we can have. Langston said 35 seems so random. Yeah, I thought that too when I read that. I thought, why 3.5? It's a bit weird. The f2 for the other two lenses seems fantastic, really quite good. But like I said, the lenses look beautiful. These might be amazing also for video, because you know, you haven't got that linear focus problem that you have with the normal Sony lenses. So these could be fantastic lenses. So that's from Sigma, but Tamron also have had, this is so exciting because there's so much news. I'm so happy today. The Tamron have also leaked the 17 to 70mm E-mount lens. Now this is an APS-C lens, but this could be a fantastic lens to pair with your a6-500 or 6-400 or 6-600, because this gives you roughly a 25 by 105mm lens. Are they saying what? Yeah, the maximum aperture is an f2.8. So this, I'll be getting a version of this. I can't wait to try this because this sounds really interesting. There won't be any stabilization on this though, I wouldn't think, because Tamron don't seem to do that anymore. But yeah, I'm just trying to see. Yeah, so it is a 2.8 lens. It's got 16 elements in 12 groups and 9 circular diaphragms. It goes to f16 as well. I'm just trying to see what the minimum focal distance is. Doesn't tell you. Not sure. Oh, 7.5 inches, I think that's it on the wide. So I'll get this no doubt for a review. So if it's released, I haven't been told anything, and if I did, I'd be under NDA anyway. But it looks like it's going to be a really nice little lens. Now, if you want to see how that looks on, say, an a6-500, it's like this, which is beautiful. I mean, that would be a great travel lens because you've got that. You know, I mean, it's not too wide, but 25 is pretty good. And then you've got the 105 at the long end. And then if you use clear image zoom, you could really get a decent amount of zoom range from this. So I think this is a really promising lens. Did it say it's got VC? Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right. It does have VC. Yep, so it has got stabilization. Correct. Thanks for that, Madden. That's right. So, wow, great. Fantastic. It'd even be good with my a6-400, which doesn't have stabilization. So I think this is going to be a really nice lens, and I can't wait to have a go at it. Is there anything else that they mention about this? Typical build quality that you get with your Tamron lenses, which are always really nice. They're very long lasting. So let me keep going here. This is interesting too, because DP Review have announced, well, basically the awards that they've put out is the a7S III. Now, this is really interesting, and I'd love to know your opinion about this, and I actually agree with it. They're saying at the moment, the a7S III is the best hybrid camera that's available. Now, if you don't believe me, I've done a complete video showing how the a7S III works for stills. Have a look at that if you don't believe me, and it's stunning. Yes, it's 12 megapixel, but you can blow that up to 16 by 20 without a problem at all. And if you use something like gigapixel, you could go up to almost any size that you like. So I think they're probably right in what they're saying, that it is at the moment the best hybrid camera that's out there. It does superb video, and it's also got great color rendering, and it's amazing for stills. Like the autofocus is incredible, and the color is the best that I've seen from any Sony camera. So I'm not surprised about this at all. So they gave the Sony a7S III as the best hybrid camera. They also said the 20mm 1.8 was the best prime lens, and that is an incredible lens. It's probably not one that I'm going to get because I love the 24 so much. I need something a bit wider than 20, so if I was going to get another lens, I'd get, say, a 16 or whatever. I'm hoping Sony bring out a prime or something like that I'll get down the track. But also the 12 to 24 tied with a Nikon lens as well, because that's also a superb lens, very expensive, but it is a superb lens if you want to go wide. So they basically said, because of the, they're saying the 12 megapixel sensor really at the end of the day didn't have that much of a problem, because if, like I said, the video that I showed, the images are stunning that you get out of it. As long as you don't crop, and that's what I did mention in that video, if you have to crop, it becomes an issue. I usually don't shoot for the crop, so I usually do shoot for how I'm going to use the image. So for me, it's fine, and I'd be quite comfortable, and I will be, when my weddings start, I will be using it. If I'm not doing video, I will be using it as a stills camera, particularly for like low light and things like in the reception, the ceremony. They're things that they never blow very big anyway, so I will be using it for a lot of that sort of stuff because the low light focusing and everything like that is just so good. But with things like, you know, your great video, your 422 10-bit color, 4K 120 without a penalty loss of quality at all, great color for your stills. The JPEGs are nuts. They are so good coming out of this camera. In fact, I don't even bother using the RAW files. I just use the JPEGs. When you look at that video, if you want to go back and have a look at it, it's all JPEG with the most minute touches of edits in Lightroom. No Photoshop, apart from I think a couple at the end that I showed. They're all as I grab them in camera, and it is stunning. So yeah, I can totally understand why they've given that as the best hybrid camera. And then, like I said, they tied the Sony 20 f 1.4. I think it is. What is it? The Sony 1.8, isn't it? Yeah, it's the Sony 20mm 1.8. That one on its own, but they did tie with Nikon for the 12 to 24. They tied it with the Nikon Z 70 to 200, so I think they tied them both together. So there you go. So Sony did quite well in the awards again. They always seem to do pretty well. Last two things before we open up to Q&A. Is this. This is really interesting. I only just saw this because I haven't even had time to look at Sony Alpha Rumours and stuff. It's this Extra launches a new battery on Kickstarter. Now, I suppose you have to be careful on Kickstarter because it may never eventuate, but I just thought I'd share this because this is a really interesting concept. Now, I've found that the Z batteries, particularly in Sony cameras, the Z batteries are really good. I mean, really good how long that they last. But they do get used quite a bit more with the Sony a7S III, and that's because of obviously the processing and everything that camera does. So you do have to take more batteries. Probably where you'd use one battery on the a7 III, you would use two on the a7S III. So you do have to be aware of that. That you've got that component that you've got to think about now. Well, this may be a solution because it says that they've launched this thing on Kickstarter that has 70% more capacity than this new than the normal Sony batteries, and it also has a USB charge indicator. So this looks fantastic. Now, what it is, the only issue, I suppose, is it does stick out a little bit on the bottom, so it may not work with a lot of cages and things like that, so you'd have to take that into consideration as well. But it's this battery that you look at like this. Now, I'm not sure even how it fits. That's the thing I've got to see how it works. Whether this is the charger, I think it is actually. Oh, no, there it is there. I'm not sure how it fits in because it just doesn't seem like it's the right shape, but it must do. So this is, it tells you the charge level that you've got on the side there, and then you have this multifunctional port through the side here as well. So this is quite interesting. So it tells you your charge level on the top on the Sony. This is the battery. I think that's the charger, and then I think this is the battery itself here. So you get your charge indicator through here as well. But if it works, fantastic. Like I said, I think this is the attachment that you see at the bottom. But if you could get 70% more usage out of a camera if you were filming or something like that and you didn't want to be changing batteries or something like that, it might be an interesting option. I just thought I'd share it with you anyway to sort of show you that there was something new coming out as well. Yeah, this is the smart case that it actually goes into, and that's your battery. Oh yeah, that's the part that sticks out of your camera there. So interesting concept anyway. And it looks like you can even charge it through, use it through to charge other devices like phones. I suppose you could even use this as a little battery bank to charge into your camera as well through USB-C into your Sony a7S III or something like that as well. Michael just said what they didn't say was for one charge only. Oh, is it only for one charge? Oh, what, then you can't charge it up, Michael? Or anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. And the last story of the day, before we open up to the chat, is that Photokina has been cancelled apparently or suspended, which is very sad. I mean, I think the days of photo shows may almost be over, and I think it's a sad thing, but we used to have one in Australia, a big one every single year, and then it went to every couple of years, and now it seems to have stopped completely. So I think the internet has sort of killed that side of it, and places now can just do things online. And I think what's happened with the virus that's out there now, Apple are now doing it and things like that, it may have changed everything forever, that they might not go back to the type of things that they did before, and it may all just become an online type thing that then everyone can log in and see what's there. And it looks like Photokina has done that, because Photokina saying have suspended. So I don't think they're even doing it online. They're just saying it's suspended and maybe forever. And they're saying it's basically because of the momentum in this direction. They're saying its digital image market is already subject to a strong upheaval with the annual percentage declines into double digits. Reporting the decline in this direction intensified massively in 2020, most recently reporting in a decline of 50% range. And they're saying with things like smartphones and things like that, it's really sort of hit it hard. So it looks like, well, it's not going to happen anyway. So it looks like it's probably gone forever, I would say. I don't think it's going to be coming back, because they finished there at the end by basically saying, thank you for 70 years together. So I think it's changing. Like Langston just said, NAB basically went online this year as well. WPPI, I think, is still listed for this year coming, but you never know, that might be the last one. Even when I went to WPPI, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be bigger than what it was, and I know it used to be. So even that side of it, has probably dropped massively compared to the size that they used to be. I remember it used to be something like 3 halls were all filled up or whatever, and this time it was just in one sort of a smaller type hall that you could walk through really in an hour or so, whereas it used to be massive. So there's big drops sort of everywhere. So I think the days, unfortunately, of these sort of things are going to disappear, and I think that's probably because of online stuff and YouTube, and they can share things online to such a bigger audience. So I think those days are gone, unfortunately. So let's open up to Q&A. So let me skip back here. Let's go back. Where were we? I'm going to go right back to the beginning. Mark said he got flybone in the heat shooting sunflowers yesterday. What else? Langston said, I'm happy Mac users are getting power at a reasonable price point for once. I know, it's amazing how different it's going to be, and I think it's only just the start too, Langston. Michael said, just bought the 219 16-inch fully spec'd. I'm mad. I know. I feel so sorry for people that have just bought the new 16-inch. You can't return it, can you, Michael? I'm mad, laugh out loud. T1 chip. Now I'm waiting for the 16-inch or a Pro desktop. The performance is nuts. Like I said, for the cost, Michael, it is nuts. It really is. I think there might be a lot of cheap 16-inch MacBook Pros and stuff on the market soon. Even said, congrats to all of you down under for kicking COVID. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. We've done so well. It's fantastic. Photo me, I said, Michael Master, that was almost me as well, laugh out loud. You've just dodged a bullet. Well, I was thinking about it, and then I heard about all this new Mac. But the great part is you can download your iPad apps. Now, the really interesting thing too about it is that it opens up like an iPad. So when you open up an application, it's bang. You know, it's just open instantly. There's no sort of delay and things like that. So it sort of works exactly like you're using an iPad. Now, eventually, you'll be able to get things like Final Cut. You'll be able to have Final Cut on the Mac and then also on the iPads. You'll be able to start one on the Mac and then you'll be also sort of be able to continue editing on the iPad. And then when you're out, come back and it'll be automatically on the Mac. I mean, the things that this is going to be able to do if you're in the Mac realm are incredible. And like I said, this is version 1 of this that's coming out. Imagine when they bring out a MacBook Pro or a new iMac or even a Mac Pro. What is this thing going to be like? So it's so exciting if you're in the Mac side of things. Like I said, guys, if you're not interested in the stories I do about Mac coming up in the coming days, just don't watch them. But eventually there won't be as many videos, but I'm really enjoying just talking about it at the moment. So I hope you understand if I throw a few videos up about that. What else? Mark said, I can understand why Sony bought out the a7S III first, as the a7 IV will probably steal its shine. It may do. Unless, like I said, you want the high bit rates and things like that. I don't think it'll have that, Mark. So, you know, you may not get the high 10-bit footage, but we'll have to wait and see. But if they wait long enough, it might. You don't know, because they might have been happy with the sales that they've had with the a7S III up to that point. 42 Pro said the a7C and the a7 IV has opened the door for the a7000 to be a flagship. Center EVF APS-C camera since Tamron 17 to 70 2.8 VC shows that there's a future in Sony APS-C. Well, that would be interesting, so let's hope so. I mean, it would be a great thing if they did that. Ike said, he's talking to Michael, said, although if you'd spec'd out your 16-inch MacBook Pro, then it's still a little faster than the M1. So technically, you should still have the edge. It depends on what you're doing, Ike. If you're exporting from Lightroom, the M1 will beat it. If you're exporting from Final Cut, your actual exports, the M1 will beat it. It depends on what you're doing. Max Uriv just did a test this morning that you can go and watch, where he actually did the tests. Most of the times they were almost identical, but some tests, the M1 Mac was way ahead. And I'm not saying close, it was way ahead. What else? Michael also said, I've been with Sony so long, I just want to see a new camera body just to see one. Same body all along. Yeah, I know. They have, haven't they? The a9iii could be a cheaper, complete jaw dropper. Well, if they spec it like that, it's going to be. Jim said, I have the 16-inch i9 MacBook in the shopping cart, tempted to pull the trigger on the purchase. Make sure, get the M1, Jim. Don't get the MacBook Pro. Don't get that one. Get the, honestly, save your money. Langston says, I have another AMD processor in the cart because of real power. What's that one, Langston? Michael said, I feel okay with it. I have, but now those new T1s are the true meaning of the beast. Yep, it makes so much difference in your editing. It's incredible. Even, for instance, if you watch Max Uriv, he did the 8K footage. He could play it natively on his little MacBook and on his M1 MacBook. He couldn't play it fluidly on his Mac Pro 16-inch. It was stepping, whereas it played back perfectly on his M1. The other thing too, when he exported, I think it was a 1-minute clip or something. It took way longer to export on the Mac Pro than it did on these the M1 version. So certain things it's way quicker. What else have we got? Yeah, Jim, get the 16-inch M1. Well, there isn't one yet, but if you wanted to wait, you could wait, but it probably will come out sometime mid-year next year, I would say. Mark said the A9 and the a7 IV actually have different EVFs. Oh, have they? I didn't know that. Well, I know the A9's got a better EVF than the a7 III. See, I haven't got the a7 IV EVF. I know the A9 is a much better EVF than the a7 III. When ARM can actually do what the software engineers need it to do, call me. Oh, you're saying when they all update. They are updating apps quick though, like fast. I'm getting updates daily now. I'm updating, but there's some things still don't work, Langston, and I'm going to do a video talking about that it is an issue if you want to use certain software. Yeah, I think it'll probably come out sort of March, sort of mid-year. Langston said we cross-compiled TO ARM from 8.6 because of power. They were also showing, I think it was compiling, Langston, on Max Eurov's site this morning. It's not Max's, it's his other one that he does. But on that, he showed using like a compiling software, I think, and it was unbelievably fast compared to what the MacBook Pro, the Intel version was, like massively different. He couldn't believe the difference. He was actually laughing. It was that much different. Will the a9 III be sports? Yes, it will. They will keep the A9 as a sports shooting type camera. Jim said March is also when Adobe will have most, if not all the apps, optimized. Yep, and that's what they're saying around about March as well. You can get a beta version of the M1 processor now, of Photoshop. I haven't downloaded it because I'm working, so I don't want to have a beta software that may play up. I'm just keeping the standard Photoshop there. I should see if you can download it to a separate folder though, and then I could run both. Perhaps that's an option that I could look at. The a7 IV, oh, that's right, it does. It has the 5.74 million .EVF. Yeah, thanks for that, Roller. You were right. I was getting confused. I know the A9 has a better EVF though than the a7 III. Jim said just spotted M1X next year, probably in a 16-inch. Adobe is only useful because of Photoshop. I use it for Lightroom too, though. I mean, I can't seem to get away from Lightroom, Ike. What are you using? I just seem to like the way it works. But I certainly don't use Premiere. I use Final Cut. I've quit all the Adobe programs except for that one. So what are you using now for photography, Ike? Jim said Capture One, Affinity, Luminar 4, Final Cut X for video. Okay. I bought Capture One, but I've never installed. I've installed it on the other Mac, but I've never used it. It's the catalog that is the part that's stopping me from going back. I mean, let me know in the chat below. I'd love to know, because there's also On One that you can use. There's the On One Raw. There's Luminar that's out there. There's Capture One. There's Affinity. Let me know what you think. Are they any good with catalogs? And this is the thing, it's the catalog side of things, because if there's something really good that works really well, I haven't transferred everything over onto here yet. So I'm still doing all my photo editing on my older Mac because of something I'll talk about when I do a video. But it's basically the RAID drive. The drivers aren't compatible yet with the new Macs. So I can't bring it over. So I'm still doing all my video, photography editing on the old Mac. Anything video I'm doing on the new Mac. But because I'm going to start from fresh, is there something that you would recommend that is way better, that does cataloging like what Lightroom does? I'd love to know. So it may be mentioned in the live chat too, but let me know in the comment box down below too, because I would love to look at that. I might be able to get a native version of that on my Mac that I can use as well. So let me know. Langston said, at this point, I don't think I'm renewing my Adobe CC sub. Wow, so you don't use Photoshop, Langston? Or Langston said, DaVinci Resolves has made Premiere irrelevant to me now. Yeah, I can understand, particularly because you're using Blackmagic. Jim Pena, I have Capture One. I gave Capture One a try. There were some things that I really liked, but I could not find it intuitive at all. Well, that's interesting. That's what I found when I opened it up. But it might be just the learning curve. I love the idea of better ergonomics of the a7 IV, though it's not reason by itself to upgrade. It may be a tough choice between that and the a7 IV for the dollars. But Photoshop, no replacement there. Yeah, that's the problem. I love Photoshop. Jim said the Capture One does take a bit of time to get used to, though. Rob said he switched to On1. I really like it. Well, that's interesting. So is that the On1 Raw? Is that the version? See, I like the On1 plugins, but I haven't got the On1 Raw. And I know they've got fairly good deals at the moment, Black Friday deals for On1 Raw as well. But like I said, I'm just a bit hesitant because I'm so stuck in the Lightroom sort of timeline. So I'd love to know some opinions, guys, if anyone has dumped Lightroom and what they're using. What else have we got? Yeah, I tried Premiere for a while, Langston, and it ran like a dog basically on the computer that I had, so I gave it up and went straight back to if you're on the Mac platform, there's nothing better really than Final Cut. I know you can use the Blackmagic software like what Langston was talking about, but that's not native at the moment, so it won't run as well. But Final Cut is just so well integrated into the Mac system that it's just so good. Mark said, no one understands the difference between the a7 III and the a9 until they actually use the a9. It is a total beast and has so many extra features to make it stand above anything else apart from the a9 II. And like I said, it's so close to the a9 II anyway, Mark, that it doesn't really matter. Langston said, it's less bad for Mac users, but there's nothing like having 24 threads and seeing one kind of doing something and the GPU not really taxed. What else have we got down here? Like say we're still talking about 8K. Michael, he said, I pre-ordered the FX6 only because I wanted to film myself going crazy inside the house during COVID. So you did pre-order it, Michael. I think that'll be a great camera. I just didn't talk about that today, but I really think that would be a great camera. If you want the inputs, the internal variable ND, if I had the money, I'm being completely honest with you, I would buy an FX6. I really would buy one because a A7S III and an FX6 would complement each other beautifully. So I don't blame you for buying that one little bit if you can afford it. I think it's a great camera. Langston said, plus Resolve 17 improved the timeline playback a lot. So I'm happy there. At least once a week doing 3-camera 4K 24-hour long podcasts. I know I've heard just such good things about it too. And it's free. Have you got the paid version, Langston, or are you just using the free version of that? Michael, Ike said, you'll learn the better lesson, Canon taught you. 8K is too much for these cameras to handle. Langston said, renders in freaking real time with no proxies in Resolve. Premiere essentially dies. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. What else we've got here? Ike said, once I realised how much better Final Cut Pro ran on my Mac, yeah, I ran over Adobe. Yep, it does. Final Cut Pro is amazing. And the new version on these new Macs, Ike, is nuts. You are going to love it. With the T1 chips, it might be a great time for it. Thank you so much, David, too, for that donation. Really appreciate it. Langston also said, well, let me introduce you to the Blackmagic Ursa 12K. I really need to know who is using Premiere and what rig they have. Michael said 12K is blinding. I like it. Michael said, David Taylor said 25, that's sent to me now. Langston also said that using that program is also about power. It's not so much about power, it's the multi-threading as well. Mark also said, my 24GM is perfect for my a7 IV as a 36mm in APS-C. What else? I'm just trying to see down here. Michael said, I really want Sony to make a 14 GM. That'd be incredible, wouldn't it? That really would be incredible. 42 Pro said, yeah, the 35 is due. The new AF motor systems like the 135 and 24. And that's the thing. I think that's the difference. They need to fix those new lenses with those linear motors. And also, if you look at the Sigma 35, that crushes the Sony 35 at the moment. What is it? The Sigma 35 1.2? So Sony need to do something in that regards. And remember, they have improved. If you look at the 20mm, if you look at the 24, if you look at the 135, all the new Sony lenses are amazing. So, you know, if they do a 135 GM, it'll be stunning. You can guarantee it. Sony lenses from 2018 onwards have been incredible. Rob said, I just picked up like new used Zeiss Lexia 21, 2.8 for Milky Way photography. I know they're great. The Sunstars, yeah, look beautiful. Langston says, I'm currently trying to figure out what my first camera lens is going to be. Oh, cinema lens. Interesting. What else have we got? 35 seems so random. Yeah, I talked about that before. If the 35 1.4 is a macro, that could work. Does it say 1.2 macro? So it's like the Sony lenses, basically. David, that Sigma leak, use your sound on the mixing board 3.5. Not sure what that meant, Michael. 24, 3.5 geared towards video. Okay. Tamron has a 24 2.8 1 to 2 macro already. Yes, and I reviewed those. They are on my channel back down below. $539 for 24 is not cheap. Mark also said, is Sigma stepping into lighter lenses for travel and vlogging? Maybe. That could maybe what it is. Finally, third-party VC OS is 2.8 lenses. Yeah, so, I mean, hopefully they'll also bring the VC out into the full frame. Let's hope so. I mean, that would be great if they did that as well. I'm just sort of scrolling down a bit because it's getting like I've been on here quite a while. Let's scroll down to here and have a look. What else have we got? Tony said, but the difference between the 256 and the 512, I think, is pretty small. I got the 512 gigabyte if you're talking about the Mac 1 Mini. You should get the bigger hard drive, and that's particularly more important because it's an SSD. You do not want the swap file to be writing all the time on a smaller drive. So, you know, and I mean, you want the spare space. You don't want to fill up an SSD past 70% of its capacity. So that's something you really need to consider. So I would definitely spend the money and get the 512K gigabyte, drive instead of the 256. Definitely, if you're thinking about purchasing the M1 Mac. I'm a big fan of getting external drives and keeping my OS drive slim. I'm the same too, Langston. And I did a video yesterday about that if you want to watch it. I was talking about the new T5 and T7 drives. What else? Blackmagic Design, Mac fanboys. Mark said, yep, C1 is a learning curve from Lightroom, but it has better layers, catalog in C1. Took some time to wrap my head around, but love it now. They won't shut up about how the Metal API really helps them process 12-bit RAW on lower-end machines. I use Capture One and process images way better than Lightroom. 5 thumbs down. David must have mentioned Fuji. Did I get 5? I can't see it on there. I can only see the likes. Thanks so much for the 62 likes. Really appreciate it if you could give me likes, guys. What else? Michael said, Langston said 14mm GM. I would love them to do a really wide GM. Pema said the Sony a7iv screen quality is so terrible. I don't mind it. I actually think it's pretty good compared to the other. Look, it doesn't beat the Canon and Nikon screens, but it's certainly much better than the other Sony cameras I've used. And some people already broke the flip screen. I noticed Peter Lindrum mentioned that too. It was shaking around like crazy. I hope that's not going to be a problem. But I did notice Peter showed it, and it was flapping around a little bit. That wasn't good. Scat said, should I get the Tamron 70 to 180 2.8 or wait for the Sony 70 to 200 2.8? It depends if you need it straight away. I love the 70 to 180 2.8 Tamron, and eventually I probably will get that lens. but the Sony 2.8 is going to be way more expensive. Look, I'd expect the 70-200, the new one, to be obviously a lot better, but boy, it's probably going to be that much more expensive. The 70-180 is an amazing lens, so if you need a lens now, I would jump in and get that, because who knows when that would come out. Yeah, I found the so said, why is it terrible, Pema? I'm pretty happy with the back screen on the Sony a7S III. Love to be on the fly on the wall at Sony. How long before global shutter? Look, it's going to happen, Steve. We just don't know when. Not before the dedicated cinema line camera for sure. Jim said Sony already makes a 151 megapixel sensor for the phase 1 camera, and they may one day bring out a medium format camera. That's a possibility, Jim. We just don't know. And Savek said, do you know if Tamron E-mount lenses are weather sealed? Yes, they are. They're always weather sealed. All right, guys. Thanks so much for that. Really appreciate you all popping in. Any questions, leave it down below. Particularly, let me know what you're using if you have dumped Lightroom. I'd love to know things like on One, Raw, and other programs like that, because, you know, like I said, I might have the perfect opportunity to switch, seeing I'm going onto a complete new system, and I've got two systems running at the moment, so I can still use Photoshop and Lightroom, and I can go for something new on the app. I mean, I used to use Apple Aperture, but they discontinued that, so you know, I am open to switching as long as it works well and the cataloging side of things work well and stuff like that. So let me know about that as well. So the lives will be back again now. So I don't know whether, hopefully we'll be back with Aaron next Wednesday, but sometimes at the moment it's a bit hard because Aaron's very, very busy with work. So if we don't have Aaron's, it might be that we start that again after the new year. We'll just have to see how that goes with Aaron, but I'll definitely be back next week at the same time, around roughly this time next week for the live show again. So I'll see you all then. So thanks so much, everyone. I'll catch you in the next live.